Okay, good evening everyone, welcome. Those who haven't been here before, my name's John Wright. This is the 5th Monday in September for me, so next week you'll get someone different. Now, do we have anyone who's new today? Oh, okay. A few, good. Okay, so we've been gradually going through a process of developing love and compassion and ultimately a state of mind called Bodhicitta, or the awakening heart, using a technique that has 11 steps. And this is actually a combination of two other techniques which have been pulled together to make a single technique. So what I'm going to do is just to recap the 7 points we've done so far before we then launch into the remainder of the steps within this technique tonight. So we started with in how we view other people. We started with the idea of developing a mind of equanimity. Because normally speaking, when we view other people, they're through the filter of either our attachment or our aversion. And based on either attachment or aversion, we tend to label them as the people we want to be near to, or friends, or we tend to label them as people we're averse to or feel uncomfortable with. And I guess stronger circumstance, we label them as enemy. And then the people to whom or towards whom we're indifferent, we just label them as neutral or as stranger. So this equanimity meditation is actually called the friend-enemy stranger meditation. And we start with representatives of those three groups in front of us, and then we investigate what circumstances have led to me calling this or identifying this person as a friend, or identifying this person as enemy, or identifying this person as a stranger or something neutral. And we'll tend to find that's based on recent events that have occurred. So the person's friend's probably done something nice to us. The person who sees enemy is someone who's upset us in some way or other, and the other person we haven't had much interaction with at all. Now, if we go back even to the duration of this life, we can see that people who were once strangers have become friends, or they've become enemies, or vice versa. Enemies, we might have had a reconciliation with them, so they've become friends, or the relationship with a friend has broken down, so we now have a difficult relationship with them instead. So even in this life we can see how these categories of groupings of people change. Now, if we look in terms of the assumption we've taken rebirth since beginningless time, we've had countless previous lives and interact with countless living beings or sentient beings, then over a vast or infinite number of lives, we've equally had those relationships with all living beings. So based on that, we then need to ask why we, at this moment, at this point in time, singling out some people, okay, you're my friend, and some people you're the ones I dislike, or some people are neutral. Because if we look over the long term, our relationships with all living beings we've equally been our friend, our enemy, or a stranger. So that was the first step, was developing a mind of equanimity. Secondly was, again, by what we want to do is rather than just equalising people, we want to see them in a positive light. And one of the examples we have of seeing people in a positive light, or most of us tend to see in a positive light, is our mother of our own lifetime. And here we're following the line of reasoning that if we've had infinite past lives as infinite sentient beings, then also each sentient being has been our mother in a previous life many, many times. So that's quite a challenge for us, because it's asking us to think in a really, really big way, without having a limited time span, but something that's infinite beyond our comprehension, and that every single living being that we run into has actually been our mother. And this is quite a challenge. Sometimes when I can sit on a train or with a group of people somewhere or something like that, just sort of question myself, is it possible these people have been my mother? Or vice versa, could say, is it possible this person's never been my mother? And so it's an interesting exercise to go through. But what we're trying to do is view other sentient beings in a way that is more likely to be dear to us or endearing to us. In other words, we're more likely to see them in a positive light. So that's why this second step involves us recognising all sentient beings as having been our mother in the past. This one, in terms of the meditation text, do say this is very, very difficult. This realisation is very, very difficult to achieve. So, and just intellectually, it's challenging to even think about that, and even look at the people around the room, around, see, yeah, you've been my mother, you've been my mother, you've been my mother in a past life, but obviously I had a different body, you had a different body, but in the past we've had that relationship many, many times. Now, once we've started to make some progress in developing recognition as sentient beings, as all sentient beings as having been our mother, the next thing we have is developing the wish to repay their kindness. Actually, sorry, I've jumped a step. So is to recognise the kindness of each of our mother of this life, and how, whenever someone else has been our mother in a past life, they would have treated us presumably with the same level of kindness. So the sort of types of kindness we've experienced from our mother in this life is, first of all, the body that we have. That came as a result of our mother, for example, not terminating her pregnancy and looking after us while we're in the womb, undergoing difficulties in terms of looking after us in the womb. Then when we were born, although at the time we were born would have caused quite a bit of pain for our mother, that was forgotten very, very quickly. And in most cases it would have been seen as something very precious. Our mother looked after us continually. In other words, she was very attentive to us. If we made a slight noise and started to cry, she would be attentive to us, no matter what time of day or night. If we were hungry, we were fed. If our nappy was soiled or whatever, or wet, our nappy was changed. We were kept warm, we were kept comfortable, we were hugged, we were cuddled. We were looked after as best as our mother could. Now, of course, we need to just look at our own selves. We can see we're imperfect human beings. Our mother is also an imperfect human being with her own needs and issues and difficulties going on in life. But given those difficulties, or what else was going on in life, in most cases, if not all cases, our mother has done their best according to their capacity or ability to try and look after us. So they've undergone a lot of hardship, had a lot of sleepless nights, fed us continually for many years, clothed us, helped to educate us. So they've, for example, just helping us to learn how to walk, helping us to learn how to talk, how to interact with people, all those sorts of things. How to eat food without getting food all over our face or all over our clothes, for example. Our mother's been the main person who's helped us all those things. And as we've progressed through school, obviously dressed us when we were young, got us to school on time, made sure we had lunch, picked us up in the afternoon, or made sure we picked up in the afternoon, looked after us when we were emotionally upset. All those sorts of things. Our mother, as best as she could, was there to look after us as much as she could. And so that's just the mother of this lifetime. And of course, even when you get old and you leave home, your mother still worries about you, still wants to look after you. Even when your mother gets very old, in their 70s or 80s, in most cases, they're still looking out for their kids, or concerned or worried about their kids. So it's something they carry with them, that love and concern for their child, even if their child's an adult and 50 years old or 60 years old or whatever. There's still that love and concern and care is still there. So if our one mother in this lifetime has looked after us like that, then the previous mothers, each person, whenever they've been our mother, and every time they've been our mother, presumably they looked after us or tried to care for us in a similar way when they were our mother. And we can see, for example, when we're out and about, we see, young women with babies, especially young children, we can see how much care and attention they give them. And one of the things we can sort of think, well, look, in the same way they're looking after their child or children now, in a similar way, when they were my mother with a different body and I had a different life, they also would have looked after me in a similar manner as well, show me that level of love and care and attention. So here we're sort of trying to recognise the kindness of all sentient beings through the medium of them having been our mother in a previous life. Now that's with looking at the kindness of sentient beings, point being their mother, it doesn't take into account all the other lifetimes when we've had interaction with them when they weren't our mother. And so we can look at the kindness of other beings, for example. So it could be, for example, if we look at the supply chain, for example, to provide us food. Someone grows the food, we have a whole bunch of insects, etc., killed in terms of the cultivation of the land, all that sort of thing. We've got the farmers involved, the machinery operators are involved. We have a transport system to get the food to a factory. The factory food gets processed or packaged, gets to a shop. We've got the shop workers as well. And eventually we can go to the shop and we've got the convenience of picking up and buying the food that we need. Similar with our clothing, the transport system, the health system we have, we are reliant or completely interdependent on the energy and activity of other people for all these things of life and our enjoyments of life to come towards us. Also, once we're engaging in the spiritual path and we're deliberately trying to practice things like virtue and abandon non-virtue, and abandoning non-virtue, for example, things like not killing, not stealing, not lying, not sexual misconduct, not harsh speech, all those sorts of things. We actually rely on other people for us to do that. And just the mere presence of other people, and the fact, for example, I've got a difficult person that I'm dealing with and I'm able to, for example, practice patience, that helps me to spiritually grow and develop positive energy. So I'm actually reliant on the kindness of that person, or the person who's very difficult to deal with might be creating negative energy or negative karma for themselves. For me, I actually get benefit out of that, so I'm experiencing kindness from them as a result. So there's lots of examples like that we can use to think about the kindness of others when they haven't been our mothers, just the other kinds of individuals in this life, just by the mere fact of them being around and everything that our whole existence being interdependent or interrelated with them. So that covers a little bit about the recognising the kindness of others. Now, naturally what would arise from that, and we know this, if we have a friend that goes out of the way to do something special for us and help us, we have a sense of obligation or a wish. Now, let me know when I can do something for you. You know that? You've got this automatic wish, wanting to repay that kindness or do something back for them. And so we've developed some recognition of the kindness of all sentient beings, either as mother or just through interdependence. Then what should instinctively arise is the wish to repay that kindness. And then from here we then sort of then go back into another equalising meditation. So we're transferring from the 6 causes of one effect meditation into the exchanging self with others meditation. And what we do now is go back to a different equanimity meditation. And this equanimity meditation involves reflecting on the fact that myself and all other living beings are equally the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering or problems in our life. There is no difference. Whatever other people are doing, if we look at the underlying motivation, whatever it is they're doing, whether they're a school teacher, a politician, a childcare worker, a retiree, a kid who's interested in footy, whatever it is, what drives them is the wish to be happy and the wish to avoid problems or suffering in their life. So from that point of view, we are all absolutely equal. Also, for example, if we lined ourselves up with a group of people, so I'm one person, there's 99 other people, and we got someone else to objectively say whose happiness is the most important, they're going to say, yeah, they're equal. But at the moment for us, we put ourselves first. I think my happiness is more important and there's less regard for the other 99 people. And this leads into the concept of looking at the next 2 steps, which is the self-cherishing, the disadvantages of self-cherishing and the benefits of cherishing others. So in the scriptures, your text, it says that all problems in our life, or all suffering, or all difficulties in our life, come from self-cherishing. In other words, where we put our own happiness ahead of others' well-being. And then all benefit and happiness that comes in life arises from cherishing others. And then last week I read out a verse which was along the lines of if we compare ourselves to beings who are highly spiritually developed, such as, or fully awakened beings, such as Buddhas, the difference between ourselves and them is the Buddhas, instead of following the mind of cherishing themselves, followed the mind or the heart of cherishing others. Whereas for us, we haven't become fully awakened beings yet, and that's because we continue to follow the mind of cherishing ourselves. As long as we keep putting ourselves forward first and have attachment to our own well-being ahead of others, we're going to continue to harm others and be creating negative karma or disturbing our inner peace and our inner calm, so we're not able to develop our inner wisdom or develop our inner potential. And this will continue to happen for us as long as we're dominated by the self-cherishing attitude. Now, leading on from there, so that's covered what we've done the previous 4 weeks. Well, I've skipped a few things, but that's covered quite a bit of what we've done the last 4 weeks, is we're looking at the practice of exchanging self with others. And there's a Tibetan word here called Tonglen, T-O-N-G is one syllable, then Len is the other one, and means giving and taking. So what this involves is a visualization meditation, where we imagine taking on all the sufferings and problems of others, and we visualise that coming in through our right nostril and then down to our heart in the form of black, yucky smoke or horrible smoke. And at our heart we visualise or imagine our self-cherishing as a very hard, rocky sort of peak, really hard and dark. And when that suffering smoke comes in from other sentient beings, it completely obliterates or destroys that hard, rocky, self-cherishing heart. A little bit like being hit by a lightning bolt. Or if you like, just light, to completely dissolve or disintegrate it. So that darkness at our heart, that self-cherishing at our heart, that hard lump at our heart, has completely disappeared. It's been destroyed by the suffering, all the suffering is taken in. And in its place we have light, the light of love, of warmth, of wisdom, which then will go out through our right nostril and is then going to go and fill all sentient beings with take away all their problems, dissolve any darkness or suffering in them, and give them complete happiness and everything they need for total, perfect inner fulfillment. So that's the process. You will find if you read the books there are some variations on that. For example, you do the love. So taking on the suffering is compassion, the meditation on compassion, and compassion is defined in Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, as being the wish for others to be free from suffering. And last week we did talk about the different levels of suffering that beings experience, and we did say that the deeper our understanding of our own suffering experience is, or problems in our own life, the more we can understand and relate to the sufferings of others. And therefore, so what we're doing is taking on that suffering of others, and then we're sending out, instead white light in the form of love, and with wisdom and warmth, and that is love. And so love is the wish for others to experience happiness and the causes of happiness. So that's what we're trying to do in this meditation. My mind's just gone blank. I had a little thought which disappeared, that's why I've stopped. It's completely gone. Oh, it'll come back one day. Oh, yes. And so what we're trying to... So here what we see is that we're exchanging the self-cherishing attitude for an attitude of cherishing others through this visualization process. And with practice, we light it up so it comes in with the in-breath and out with the out-breath. So then you can line up your breath when you get to be very advanced practitioners are able to do this continuously on their breath day and night, taking in the sufferings of others and sort of sending out their positive energy, merits and well-being to others to fill them with happiness. Now, once we've done that practice, obviously we get, for a while, that visualisation practice for a while, we'll sort of realise, actually, this is, we're not, from one point of view, we're not changing what's happening to others. We're certainly changing our own inner landscape in a very deep and profound way as we progress, get better and better at this practice. And as we change ourselves, how others will interact with us will change as well. But strictly speaking, we're not taking away the problems of others or making them happier. And so, what this point here is, we need to investigate and say, okay, look, if this is just a visualisation practice, what do I actually need to do to make this happen? And part of what's happening here is we're developing this attitude, I need to take the responsibility for freeing all sentient beings from suffering and lead them to happiness. So we're becoming invested in the well-being of other sentient beings. And so this is called the special intention, or it's just getting towards what's called the special intention. This idea, I'm going to use my life energy, my body, speech and mind to help lead others away from suffering and lead them towards happiness or complete well-being. And then we have to investigate, look, do I have the skills or the capacity to do that at the moment? And the obvious answer to that one, in my case, is clearly no. Now, just as a diversion, I think of a kid I taught many, many years ago. When she was 14, we were quite young, like 14, 15. Because she'd had some medical problems as a child, which were still ongoing. She'd spent a lot of time at the Children's Hospital. So she developed this ambition, I want to help others like I was helped, to become a doctor. And so she set this up, so she had this special intention, at that quite young age, I want to be a doctor, with this motivation to help others like I was helped. And so she worked, she was a very conscientious, hard-working kid, and she worked through high school, but she wasn't clever enough or good enough to get into medicine, so she did a biomedical degree instead, still couldn't get into medicine. She then started a PhD in that area, and part of the way through PhD she was able to get into medicine, spent her, I think it's 5 years or whatever, doing a medical degree, to eventually become a doctor. I know her husband complains, it's about time you sort of got this finished and started working. But it was interesting, she had this long-term goal, special intention, I want to benefit others, and this is a skill that I need. So, she did it. Took a long time. So it's sort of a similar sort of idea. We want to benefit others. And it's interesting in Buddhism, you'll meet lots of doctors, or some of the Sangha, for example, who used to be doctors. And what they realise, look, as a doctor, I can sort of stitch wounds, I can give medication for psychological problems, but really I'm fixing symptoms. It's all short term. I'm not dealing with the deep inner cause of problems. It's the fact that people are, and the deep inner cause of problems is that we're all, our lives are, driven by the fact we've got an incorrect view of ourselves, and based on the incorrect view of ourselves, we have delusions such as attachment and anger, pride and jealousy, envy, etc. And we then carry out different actions of body, speech and mind, and many of those actions will literally be what's called negative karma, because they're harming others, disturbing our own mind, and this will create suffering results for us. Whereas, of course, the positive actions we do will create positive results for us. So what we're looking at is the deep cause of people's unhappiness and problems in their lives, and how to help them. And so when we look at, okay, what do I need to do to get to that point where I can actually help people, not at a superficial level, but at a deep inner level? What do I need to do? Basically, we need to become a fully awakened being, someone who's become completely free of all faults and who's developed all their innermost qualities to the fullest extent. So in other words, they have perfect wisdom and insight into the nature of their own reality. They have perfect love and compassion. There is no selfishness. There is no eye-grasping or ego. There are no negative minds such as anger, attachment, jealousy, envy, pride, all those things that make us unhappy or disturb our inner peace or equilibrium. So we say, so we develop the wish or the intention, I want to become a fully awakened being or a Buddha, for the sole purpose of being able to lead other beings away from suffering and towards that perfect state as well. So when we develop that intention, so the special intention is, I want to do my best to benefit other beings or lead them away from suffering. And then when we investigate and find, okay, what's the best way to do this? It's becoming we realise that it's becoming an enlightened being or a Buddha. So we then once we develop the wish to become a Buddha, that wish, the Sanskrit word is called Bodhicitta, or can be called the awakening, the enlightened attitude, the enlightened mind. And someone who possesses has the mind of Bodhicitta is called a Bodhisattva, or also in English might say an awakening warrior, for example. So this is where these meditations are taking us, or what we're trying to achieve. Now, in reality, of course, for us as ordinary beings, developing bodhicitta in this life is a really nice wish. I mean, hope for some people it'll be realistic. Probably for most of us, it may not be realistic, but we'd have to start where we are and do the best that we can. And over a long period of time, we'll gradually we can build up our practice to become better and better at it, so that it changes from being primarily an intellectual wish to something that will become more and more heartfelt as we progress through our practice. Now, I notice I'm running out of time. So look, we should probably do some meditation. We'll do some Tonglen meditation. Because I was going to talk about Chenrezig practice, which is that detail there, but we'll see how we go at the end with these questions, not whether we talk a tiny bit about that or not. So let's just get ourselves in a nice comfortable posture, and straight back's the main thing, and the head tilted forward very slightly, eyes almost closed, right hand on top of the left hand, thumbs touching, elbows out slightly, the tip of the tongue and the roof of the mouth, that's near the teeth, or the front teeth. And we just need to take a couple of minutes to sort of settle ourselves, to ground and just sort of have a sense of being physically grounded in terms of the contact of our body with the floor, and sort of being, I guess, in our body, sort of out of our head a bit. And once we've got that sense of feeling grounded with contact with the floor, to focus our awareness on our breath coming in through our nostrils, all the way down to the abdomen, and we can feel the rise and fall of our abdomen if you like, and then back out through the nostrils. And we're not trying to regulate our breath in any shape or manner, we're just being aware of our breath as it is. And what should happen over time, as our mind calms down, our breath will become more relaxed and settled as well. So now what we're going to do is visualise that we're surrounded by a big group of people, loads and loads of people all around us in different aspects, and make sure in amongst them there are some familiar faces in terms of people we're close to, people we know, and also people who we feel a bit distant towards, or some enmity or animosity or discomfort with as well. And so with these people, just bring to mind various problems in their life that they might be going through now, or they've gone through before, or that might be sort of coming up for them. Also, we can imagine our own future sufferings and problems as well. Then within our heart develop the wish that how wonderful it would be that these people and my future self could be free of all suffering and problems and the causes of suffering and problems. And also how wonderful it would be if they could have happiness and the causes of happiness. So with that feeling in our heart, imagine from this vast number of living sentient beings around us in human aspect, and also the individuals, including our own future self, that suffering or problem comes towards us in the form of dark smoke. And it enters through our left nostril and comes down to that hard lump at our heart, symbolising our self-cherishing attitude, our closed mind, our closed attitude. And that hard attitude is completely smashed, completely obliterated, disappeared, and replaced with the light of warmth and love and compassion. And then from that space, we breathe out our love and compassion and warmth in the form of light, out through our right nostril, and going out and entering the bodies and minds of all living beings around us, completely removing their sufferings and problems, and filling them with complete happiness and joy, and giving them all that they need for total fulfillment. If we can, try to synchronise that visualisation with your breath, in and out breath. But if we can't, don't worry too much. Also, you can be quite creative. You can start with just individuals and one particular thing from one person, for example, and then gradually build up our visualisation or imagination until it encompasses all living beings. from this space of mind, investigate or think about, what do I need to do to make my wish of freeing others from suffering and bringing happiness and benefit to others, to make this wish come about. The only way I can make this happen is if I become a fully awakened being. So based on that, develop the determination, I want to become a fully awakened being in order to completely benefit others and lead them to a state of full enlightenment as well. And when that wish develops our heart, just to hold that feeling, stop the thinking process, and just hold that feeling that's there. Okay, so now we can finish off and open our eyes. So are you all bodhisattvas now? Or at least we're a little bit closer. Okay, any questions or comments? Oh, if you're all quiet, I better say something. Well, don't need to fill a space, do I? But I did have planned from weeks ago, I wanted to talk about Chenrezig practice, or in Sanskrit Avalokiteshvara. So if we look behind me, you can see a white deity with 4 arms. One pair of arms there, another pair of arms there sitting in full lotus. So especially in Tibetan culture, Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara is incredibly important practice. And so far what we've got you to do in our meditation, trying to develop love and compassion, we've mostly used words as a way of communicating and trying to develop an awareness of something which is really non-conceptual. We've been using words to lead us there. But we can use images or mantras or sounds as well instead. So when we're looking at the image of Chenrezig there, this is the image, a visual representation of enlightened being, our own inner potential, where compassion is the main element. Right? The wisdom is still there, the power is still there, but it's representing the perfection of compassion primarily. So there's a lot of deep symbolism there in terms of that. That one. And so in terms of where it fits within Buddhism, this comes under what's called Vajrayana, or the Dharma vehicle, or the practice of Tantra. And what we've been doing so far has been really what's just the sutra type teachings, where we create a cause in order to get a result. In the Vajrayana or Tantra vehicle, it's a much, much quicker practice. And so it's far more powerful for us develop the qualities that we're seeking, as long as we're the right sort of person for it. And what's called the resultant vehicle. So what we're doing is we're taking the result as the path. So if you say, I get a qualified teacher like Geshe Doga, and you attend a permission to practice ceremony, or sometimes translated in English as initiation, you're guided through a particular meditation where you're introduced to, say, the practice of Chenrezig, and also given the oral transmission of the mantra, so that you can do that as a practice. And when you do that, once you've been given that permission, you can do the practice of visualising yourself as that deity. In this case, we're talking about Chenrezig. Now, we can't do that if we haven't had the permission to practice. We can still, for example, visualise Chenrezig in front of us or above our head as a symbol of the enlightened energy of compassion. And what we're trying to do is connect its reflection of our own potential in terms of compassion energy, and then the mantra of Chenrezig, which is Om Mani Padme Hum, is like the vibration of compassion, which we are trying to enhance within ourselves, or as we quieten our mind down, to actually sort of to resonate more with or get in tune with that particular vibration. So Tibetans, even the simplest people, have, just part of their culture is, and this has been like this for centuries, is incredible devotion to the Chenrezig practice and to saying Om Mani Padme Hum. And you'll see, especially if you travel in Tibetan style, I've never been to Tibet, but certainly in places in Nepal, for example, or in when I've been in Ladakh, you see lots of carved stones of Om Mani Padme Hum carved and put in high places and things like that, just as a visual representation of that mantra, to help the minds of beings. And so just reciting that mantra has a really powerful effect. And even if we don't really understand it, but especially if it can be said with devotion over a long time, it does have a very strong transformative effect on our mind and on our heart in terms of helping us to generate that energy of love and compassion. And then especially if we get start to do the practice of Chenrezig, if we met someone like Geshe Doga, is a qualified teacher to transmit that sort of practice, and there are very few people in Australia who do have that quality or that level. He is one of them. We do need some faith in three main concepts. One is the concept of renunciation. In other words, there's a bit more to life than just this life only. Have some faith or devotion in the idea of bodhicitta, and we have some faith or idea in the idea of the teachings on emptiness. In other words, how we view things are completely true. So we've got that as a basic foundation. We've got some sort of trust in the teachings, and these are the three main teachings of Buddha, I guess. We've got some sort of faith or devotion in that, and some sort of faith in the teacher. Then it can be an appropriate thing to do. And as a daily practice, it is very quite over a period of time. It helps speed up about our development of compassion. It makes it a lot quicker and more powerful for us. In terms of doing that practice. And also we look at it from the point of view, there's within that, just that is what happens is when you have to do a meditation to emptiness, and then from that's what's called the sphere of emptiness. So you're dissolving your concept of your own ego and yourself, and then you're trying to arise as that in that enlightened energy and see yourself that way rather than an ordinary being. So this is what's called taking the result of the path, and this is part of what makes it powerful. And then based on that, you're try to tune in the mantra, get used to that energy, the mantra, and build up that vibration within ourselves so that the process of inner transformation can occur more quickly. And it is said with the Tantra path that what would take unbelievably long amounts of time can be done. The highest level of Tantra, we can attain enlightenment just in this lifetime. But you do need the right prerequisites for that, but the potential is unbelievably strong. So even something really simple like visualising Chenrezig, as rather than sort of thinking about compassion in an intellectual way, look as a visual image or representation of compassion. And for example, there's 4 arms there. Those 4 arms refer to the there's 4. I just trying to think the right word. It's gone out of my mind. Another thing that's gone. It'll come back. But there's the great compassion, the great love, the 4 immeasurables. So the immeasurable love, immeasurable equanimity, immeasurable compassion, immeasurable joy. So each one of those arms represents that. We then look at the hands held together at the heart. So left hand for wisdom, right hand for method. What's held in between is a jewel. This jewel grants all our wishes, and it's the jewel of Bodhicitta. White for purity, for example. These left hand's got a crystal rosary, and the crystal rosary keeps going round and round and round, signifying that he never stops trying to benefit sentient beings. The other hand, there's a lotus. The lotus, when a lotus grows, will grow from mud, no, those dirty places, but the lotus flower itself is pure. So it's Chenrezig is in the world, the impure world, as a pure being helping others. He's got various adornments, things like necklets, armlets, bracelets, etc. They represent the 6 perfections, so perfection of generosity, perfection of morality, perfection of patience, enthusiastic perseverance, concentration and wisdom, for example. So there's some deep, deep symbolism in that image. And it's not as though we need to sort of think about the symbolism in a conceptual way. We just sort of need to allow that symbolism to grow on us and arise within us to some extent, I guess we could say. So in some respect we say the enlightened energy, or the Buddhas are communicating with us in a symbolic way, as opposed to, say for example, using words to try and convey something which we then want to get a realisation from. So we can approach the path at different levels. One from the point of view of the words, which we spent a lot of time doing, but also from the point of view of more from symbolism in terms of the deities, and also, of course, in terms of the transformed speech, or the mantra, reciting the mantra, for example, of Om Mani Padme Hum, as much as we can. I just sometimes find a walk in here and just sit there and look at that image has an effect on me. There's something quite powerful about it for me. So there's sort of a communication happening more at this level rather than this level. Anything to ask or say? Or have I left you stunned? I'm wondering if I should give you an early mark. Who thinks we should have an early mark? Okay, so this is the last of 5 weeks. I guess we've covered a few bits and pieces. There's lots of things that haven't been covered. For me it's been beneficial as I've had to think about it. Hopefully it's given everyone some food for thought, or there are some challenges there. And obviously the biggest challenge, one I guess is to learn the structure as such, and you can find this in books or on the internet. And the other thing is to actually sort of start using those thinking processes, whether it's in a formal situation like sit-down meditation, or in an informal situation we just interact with people, or we get a quiet moment, or we see something going on. To sort of have just sort of mulling those sorts of ideas. And I guess for each of us we've got to find out, do they resonate with us? Is it true for us? And that comes from our own investigation and our own efforts, and especially make sure we're questioning and challenging as well, rather than sort of, well, it sounds okay, maybe I'll believe it. We do need to challenge it and try and make it our own, develop our own inner meaning and inner experience, from thinking about the various ideas that get presented over different weeks from different people. Now, next week we have someone called Anjali who's talking, or I believe her topic is impermanence. So that should be exciting. Thanks everyone for coming, and hopefully it's been worthwhile. Now I guess before we let you go, we better do a dedication. Basically it's tying up our loose ends of the positive energy we've created today. So let's just focus our minds again very briefly. So the positive energy we've created today by just making the effort to come here and to think about teachings and love and compassion, to think about the idea of bodhicitta and being a bodhisattva. This is something that's probably fairly different to what we normally do with our daily life, and it's very positive sort of energy, so we don't want to waste it or let it sort of fritter away. So what we want to do is dedicate or direct that energy that it becomes a cause for both ourselves, all the beings we care for, all the beings at the moment we don't care for or don't even know, but for every single living being. It becomes a cause for ourselves and every single living being to progress on the path to full awakening as quickly as possible, free from all obstacles, and ultimately that we can become a fully awakened being with the skill and the ability to guide all other beings there as well, without any limitation or insecurity, etc. Okay, everyone, thank you for your attention and your attendance. Hope we'll run into one another again. Anyway, it's Anjali next week for all of October. I don't know who November is. I do know who December is, though. That's me. Unless it gets changed. Thank you.